All right, hey guys, we're early afternoon, October 31st, and a few things to look at here. Something that I know many of you and myself included, we all do. On a day like this, when Bitcoin is ripping, you really want to consider who can go with it, which alt can go with Bitcoin, or if you think of it this way, who can stay positive spread against Bitcoin. So if we look here, so I'm here on the trading view market overview, and I've moved it over to Bitcoin, and I'm looking at trading volume because I always want to see where there's volume. And I've got two big standouts here. So this coin, I've never heard of it before. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Groestlcoin. I don't know. Don't really care. But I can look at it, and then I can say, okay, well, where can I get a reference as to what this coin is about? So, just as I will often encourage you to do, I go over to CoinGecko, where they have a nice metric scoring system. I'm always looking for coins with a score of 50 or higher. And this is a pretty significant coin. So we're at 51. There's all sorts of good fundamental data here. It's got a substantial market cap. So if I go back and say, well, at the very least, I'm curious. Let's go look at the chart and see how it's trading. So here it is on the 60-minute. And you can see, we're off to a pretty good start here. So some sort of impulsive one. We retrace that. Now let's just check it for, and I'm kind of having to just grab the lowest low I can find here, pull it up. Well, that's a good start. So we go right to the 618, a few ticks through, so right into the little pocket that we love, that 61865, and that's just a textbook perfect second wave. So that's encouraging to look for relationships now to continue. So with that well, of course, we're to and through the first target, which is the negative 23. Here's the second. This is the negative 618. And then we get a big cluster up here. This would be the negative 100 of that 1, 2. But then we have some other ways that we can measure that as well. So let's. I'm going to take that off just to clear the chart up, since we've already got this box drawn here. So I'm going to grab that, take it off. Well, we also know that if we're going to evaluate that as a third wave, we'd work in relation from the 1 wave to the 2. Most common target would be the 1618 to the 175 window, and you can see that overlapped nicely with the 100% of just the straight retracement. So we get a big target up here that is meaningful to us. So we can look at that and say, okay, well, how are we going to get there? We're not likely to go just straight up, so we're going to look for some subdivision. First qualifier, if we're putting in a third wave, is we've at least got to get to 100% of the length of the 1 wave. So that's done and complete. So you can see here this maroon color. That's 100% of the 1 wave projected from the 2. So this definitely qualifies as a third wave, but it's a bit shallow. I mean, it's certainly not to the point that we were looking for with this as a target. So then you look at it and say, well, if I'm going to get clear subdivision and I've got a topping 5-wave structure here, we don't, if you're a bull, you don't want that to be your 3, because that's going to create for a much less how do I want to phrase that? So if that's our third, our 4 comes here, and our ultimate target for the 5th is lower than if this is our third, we come back for a 4 and we go up again for a 5th. So it's just putting that in the relative context of where it could go relative to where it sits right now. We don't want this to be the third. So with a good target up here, as I move this over, with a good target up here, if this is the likely candidate for our third, we want this to be just the 1 of 3. So since we've got a complete structure here, the likely expectation would be that we'd start to put in an ABC. So you can see that's already underway. And take a look at how technically this traded. So I show you this example all the time. It's just there's no rocket science here. I'm just putting a pivot swing, putting this yellow dashed line here at the prior wave 1 high, and again its previous resistance offering the support, and it goes to it literally to the tick. So contender for an A wave. We would not be anticipating that was our 4th wave. Given this subdivision here, this length of time, that would be very abrupt and probably too short. Well, so anything's possible, right? So that could just rip higher. But in terms of looking for a higher probability trade with the kind of structure that we'd want to look for with good risk reward and good probabilities, we'd want to wait for this to unfold in a three-wave fashion where we get that subdivision. So if I put the wave on it just to make the point. So you might potentially have an AB that's in play. Now we'd have to go to the 15 to see if we get any kind of subdivision here. So we got to move this a little bit when you change the time frame. So if I can get that to line up. Okay, so sharp drop for the A. Here comes the B. Now, do we know it's a B? Well, we can't really say anything other than right now it remains an internal correction to what I have labeled as the A wave. So if that's going to stay as a B wave, we can qualify it. So we'd want to look for a retracement from our A low here. And ideally, you'd be right around the anywhere. A B wave can go from the 50 to the 786. So the fact that we're between the 50 and the 786, let me dial in here a little tighter, make sure I've got that low just right. There it is. Right, and there you can see, we missed the overlap of that prior swing high. So let me pull back out. So now you can see here, so if I go up to my absolute high there, so potentially you've got your B wave going in now, and now this can keep going. Nothing says it has to stay, it has to follow this roadmap. Nothing says that it must do this. So this is just a potential. This is a contender for a roadmap that would give us a setup that would be ideal, the kind of thing that we look for. So this. Coming to the 15-minute here, the only reason to do that is to look for some clarification of that subdivision. Can I get a B wave here? I don't want to see this top out here, but potentially you could be relabeling. We might end up calling this high the 3. This could be the 4. I mean, this nothing. Again, I guess my point is it doesn't have to stop here. We'd like to see that because that would give us more confidence if we get a 3-wave subdivision down here where we'd expect to see a second wave, because again, if I take it back to the hourly, it's slow today. If I take it back to the hourly, we want to see this be a 2 of 3 because we've got some pretty substantial targets much higher. So again, we'd prefer this not be the 3, but it may be, or in our preference, the market doesn't give a shit. If this is our 1, we'd be looking for the 2 to come back down here to at least challenge the 50, which would once again line up nicely with this 1 high or this prior resistance as a potential support line. So if we get that, then this is your ideal trade. And we're hypothesizing here. You can also take note that the negative 23 would be here, clustered close to the 618. So either of those are contenders, and then we'd be dealing with the outside edge of the median line here of the pitchfork. So if that's going to be a 1-2, we'd want to see that qualify itself by getting at least to the 50 and maybe a challenge here of this outside edge. Nothing says it has to do that, but that's the trade that's the one you'd wait for. So if it just keeps rolling higher here, well, then you got to keep waiting if you're not already in. I would not suggest being a buyer here because that would be low probability with a big downside. I'd wait for the retracement to come back down here, give you the kind of setup that is worth waiting for. Always better to let the thing show itself. If you're going to miss some, right? Just accept it. You're not going to catch every swing. So if you're watching this, you'd want to alarm the high or alert it, put an alert on a break of the high, because if it takes that out, potentially you're relabeling. And I'd want to put if we come back down here towards this low, you put an alert on that as well, because if we're going to challenge the 50 and we do indeed have an A, B put in and we're coming down for the C, I'd want to be looking for the next entry to get long on the assumption that that's a 1-2 of my larger 3. That's what you're hoping for. gives you much more upside. If you catch that, look at the distance, right? So from here, if you catch your 2 down here, you've got a great looking trade to go into the 3, and nothing says it has to stop there. But if that's the case, then you'd be looking for that 4. Maybe it's a return to the median line. Maybe it's deeper, but you'd have to reevaluate based on how much time it takes and if and when it gets to that outside edge. Then you'd look for the retrace on the 4 to be between the 38 and the 50, right? With substantial upside targets here. Right now, it's just a contender. It's just one to put on your watch list. And with any luck, you get this thing to come back down and give you the entry that you're waiting for. Right. Okay. So just how's that? That's 10 minutes. Okay. I'll tell you what. I'll wrap on that one. I've got one more to show you. That's another big mover today, and I'll just do it in a separate video. So back in a flash.